guest today is a gold medalist and honors degree topper from Lucknow University, an MBA from FMS Delhi, postgraduate in strategy from the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington. He has served the Indian Army for 26 years at various levels, including critical command and staff appointments such as CHRO of National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, Pune. He took part in 2 wars and has some incredible stories to share. Post retirement in 1991, he moved into the corporate world, serving leading companies in diverse business sectors in the capacity of Director Human Resource and has held 2 board level appointments. He founded Polaris Consulting in 2009, through which he mentors, consults, and coaches at individual and at organizational levels. He holds results coaching system certification from Neuro Leadership Group and professional certified coach from International Coach Federation USA. He is also systemic leadership team and group coaching practitioner and is licensed to use and conduct its 360-degree team capability and effectiveness tool for the organizations. He is also certified leadership facilitator by Worldview Consulting South Africa. That's not all. He's one of the founding directors of ICF Pune chapter and is currently in the governing council as a vice president. That's how I know him. And he's been socially committed for the past couple of years. As an intensive leader, he has coached and mentored several change makers on leadership capability enhancements, helping them realize their high impact community goals through his association with Head Held High, a large and reputed NGO, and Global Action on Poverty, GAP. I'm privileged to introduce Colonel Vinay Verma to you.
Thank you, Aparna. It's such a pleasure to come on your channel and to share my views with you.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you for giving me your time. So, like I just mentioned in the introduction, right, you are a gold medalist and an honors degree topper and have done MBA. How did you go around joining the armed forces?
I had a deep inclination actually to with the uniformed services. And apart from that, 6 members of my family were already in the services, and I was deeply impacted by them. One was in the Navy, another was in the Air Force, there was another one in the 2 in the Army, and I had followed their life and used to often meet them and get motivated by what these guys were doing in that part of their services. So it became a natural inclination to join the services because I was attracted majorly to this. The other thing is that, I had been right from the childhood, school days and onward right up to the college and university level, a part of the NCC, National Cadet Corps. That's not all. Actually, because of these people who were already in the services, I visited NDA and IMA twice, each of these institutions. And while visiting the IMA, I came across 3 of the value propositions of the Indian military category, and kept on staying there, standing in front of it, and just mulling over it, what exactly did it mean? I'll cover that later in this interview at an appropriate opportunity. But that was the catching moment for me. I said, yes, I resonate with this, and therefore I must join the services. That's how I got into it.
Incredible, Colonel. I can imagine, as a young kid, how you were excited, especially when you have so many people to follow within your family or in your inner circle. I'm curious to know, during this entire time in the defense, what kind of mindsets or attitudes did you have to develop?
Yes, that's very important because once you were joining these the uniformed services, the mindset required there is slightly different from the other the branches and other avenues which are available to you. The first and foremost thing is, as I mentioned to you in the introduction when you asked me, the 3 the value propositions of the IMA. That exactly, in fact, that is what which impacted me to look at these services. And I think there is no service officer today who has come through the IMA would not remember these three value propositions by heart. The first one said, uh, the safety, honor, and welfare of your country comes first, always, in every time. The second one it said was, the safety and welfare of the people that you lead comes second, always, and every time. And the third one was, your own safety and honor comes last, always, and every time. Now,
Wow.
because this actually hit me so hard. Invariably, it used to keep coming to my mind all the time. And I actually wanted to see that how a person in the uniform actually keeps this as the guiding factor for him to go through various challenges which the service provides. This actually also propelled the kind of mindset that I need to develop, and which I did develop while I was in the services. In the IMA, in various facets of training, they were constantly being evolved while we were under training. But I would like to list out some of these, the critical aspects of that training, which we as leaders actually developed. That was enduring leadership, and the other one was the emergent leadership at that time. Enduring leadership is that as it existed in the army since ages, which became the hallmark, the fundamentals of it, that we had to absorb, and during the training, with very exercises and all that, live by those value systems because the opportunities got One was that is the performance focus. That at any stage of life, in whatever conditions you were, is the performance that matters. Because mind you, a leader is like an exhibition. Everybody's under everybody's watch. Your own men, your own colleagues, your own subordinates in your work all the time. Yeah. Different trying conditions, right? So it's the performance that matters. What impacts others also. That was one. The second was always lead by example. If you are leading people and the teams and all that, you as a leader have to be an example to be set for them, so that they also follow the same thing. Another one was the ethics and integrity. As a soldier, the ethical practices can never be forgotten. That was part of the value system which I saw in the three value system of the IMA. Integrity, whether somebody is watching me or not watching, my behavior has got to be of the highest integrity. So it used to come to us naturally. So that's the mindset that one had to develop. Risk-taking capability. I did a 3 months commando course when I was as part of the services, and risk was every minute. Now that also inculcated a kind of the risk-taking ability, both mentally and physically. And you were working the army throughout for such a long time in different terrains. You talk about the deserts of Rajasthan, you talk about the flat areas of Punjab, you talk about the Ladakh and Leh and Sheshan Glacier. I mean, you keep moving from one sector, one ecology to the other ecology, right? One environment to the other. So you have to get adjusted to do it. And they all threw a lot of challenges. So risk-taking ability there was, and unfortunately, during my service, I have served in most of these areas. Wow. The other thing was the passion. Right. A leader in the army has to have that passion. Right? It's the passion that drives you. Right? Remember 3 IMA values which I listed out to you. Those were always the guiding things for us. The other was the empathy. Empathy is I learned at that time while in the service. It is the connecting with people that was very important. Leadership had to be authentic, and that's what we had to show and behave in that way, right? And it used to come to us naturally. You cannot be dramatized. You will not be showing a drama somewhere. It's in realistic situations, and the leadership also had to be decisive. So that kind of a mindset had to be, look, this is your decision as a leader. It may be collective, but it is you who's responsible. So you have to take a decisive, show a decisive temperament there. And we always, as leaders, were working across boundaries throughout our service. And when I say across boundaries, means different terrains, different kind of cultures that we're connecting with. I have served with various kinds of communities, religions, caste communities there. But the boundaries were very different, both by terrain and also by people. And the other thing was the stakeholder connect. Now, for us, the stakeholder connect was during operations, even during training areas, we were actually dealing with the Air Force, dealing with Navy, not working in isolation. The three services would conjoined and then fight an operation or fight. So we were often working across boundaries. Yeah.
Among all this that you have
Yes.
developed, what remains to be your biggest lesson that you have learned in your service?
There were two things that I learned, just two things. And one was how to handle vulnerability, and the other was move from fear to unfear.
Okay, interesting.
There's no individual who's not vulnerable on this earth.
Absolutely.
And soldiers for sure. Because we came across or we come across such kind of situations, even during peacetime. Say, if you don't know a thing, we are taught to say, I don't know, which does not mean that I'm quitting. I'm not quitting, but I'm just saying that, look, I'm vulnerable. I need help, right? I need some support. And as a leader, I learned to listen to this aspect of my team members. But it also applies to me equally. Right? I was also vulnerable. This was one lesson that I learned. And how did I do it? I'll just narrate one example to you and how it came across. This is exactly 12th of October, 1971. When I was then in Firozpur and we were mobilized for 1971 war. I felt very vulnerable. I was married by then. So I had family pressures at that time. My first child had arrived about 4 or 5 months back. We were told that morning on 12th of October that within 2 hours, you should be ready to move. Now, see the pressures. Family is there, child is there, and I had been allotted first married accommodation in the army at that time. So I was both vulnerable, so afraid. What should I do now? And who was the person who came to my help at that time? Can you imagine? My young wife, whom I went and spent about half an hour with her explaining to her this is what it is. And anytime today we'll be moving out. And my God, she's no more now. I projected my vulnerability to her by saying that she has to shift now from here. She has to move to Delhi. We had to decide. But the way she stood like an iron in front of me, he said, don't worry, it's your job. He said, I married a service officer, so I was prepared for it. This is the first example. Second time, when I went actually into attack, 71 war. I'll narrate that a little later. But this is the time when I was actually faced with the dilemma, what to do with this man, my buddy, who was injured. And because it was no help coming to me. I was most vulnerable at that time. This guy was my responsibility. Remember the second value system of the IMA, which I told you? The welfare of your men that you lead comes second always in every time. That, when I became vulnerable, it is that value system that helped me. No fear to unfair. Both these examples also relate to that. Fear is a natural emotion. I think fear comes to everyone, and people say that yes, you can move from fear to the unfear. It is not possible. But let's say even if it was possible, my take is that it will be counterproductive. Because
how so?
Because the story that you build around when you stuck with fear is the story that you build around it in your mind, in your thinking, emotion. ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, क्या करूँगा मैं? So one needs to reframe the perspective at that time. So if you can handle those stories and keep it away from you, right, by reframing your perspective, I think you can handle fear also. And maybe something of larger proportion comes and hits you. For me, it did. When this guy next to me injured, I thought immediately of the value system. I was afraid what to do. And the moment that comes, he said, well, I have to do this. This. And I evacuated him, and both of us were safe after that. So my take is this, that it is all about the stories and the thought process that you start building around when the fear is coming to you, that accentuates it more and more and more.
Correct. The narrative, we say, the inner dialogue that we have.
Narrative. And that narrative has to undergo a change, which as leader is our responsibility.
Right.
So
a small thing on this fear to unfear, sir. So fear is obviously a state of mind, and so is unfear. But we do not really dwell, like you said, much on the unfear part. The moment you're overcoming fear, you're in a different state. Then you're not having fear, right? So is there really a state called unfear, or you're just not fearful anymore and you're moving on? Maybe, or is it brave? Because brave is also a state of mind. Being courageous, being brave is also a state of mind. So would you then move from fear to being brave, or fear to courage? Is that the same as unfear that you just mentioned?
I can give you one example, which actually happened in this Kargil war. You must have heard of this.
Right.
Right? You know Vikram Batra? You have heard of
Yes,
Batra? Misha and all that. Here is a guy who ultimately he was totally into the last moments. He had moved from the fear to unfear totally. The last time when he said, nothing is possible now, I have to go and destroy this bunker now. But he remembered the IMA values. I cannot ask any one of my colleagues to go into it. It is I who has to go into it. He went, crawled, and destroyed the bunkers. But in the process, he got hit. So at that time, I don't think it was fair at all. He had gone past that. The normal circumstances, when you are faced with a situation, I think it's the story that you have the time to build around and you start thinking emotions and so on and so forth. That actually puts you down.
Wow. Colonel, 26 years in army is no small feat, and I'm sure there are many wonderful moments you must have had. I'm curious to know, among all those years, what are your most cherishing or unforgettable moments in the defense? Thank you
for asking this. I have 2 or 3 moments which I can never forget, and I have not forgotten to this day. It all happened between 1975 and 1978. Right? When I was in the army, I was then a young captain, about to get promoted to a major's rank. But now 3 things happened with me at that time. I was then posted in Delhi, part of a regiment here. And I was actually doing my 3 years part-time MBA with FMS Delhi at that time. I had sought permission from the commanding officer. I want to join these evening classes for 3 years. And so he very, graciously agreed with that. He said, but look, you do that, but it should not be at the cost of your contribution to the regiment. I said, yes, sir, it won't be. And I was doing the adjutant of the regiment also. I was his adjutant, which means 24/7, I was at his beck and call. I was also preparing for the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, which was a very difficult competitive examination. We as service officers throughout our career are nominated every year on 1 or 2 courses, which is decided by the commanding officer based on the requirement of the regiment, the kind of arm and service in which we, so that every time we go on a course, we learn new things, come back. And DSSC course, now I call it START DSSC, not Defense Services Staff College, is rated to be one of the most prestigious courses in the Indian Army, and this is attended to by all the officers of all the three services.
Okay.
In fact, there are about the 30% officers are coming from abroad also. They are all from the Army, Navy, and Air Force in their country, and they also are nominated on this program in India. Similarly, some are nominated outside. So about 3,000 officers actually from the Army who are eligible to appear in this competitive examination, which is a written examination. And there are only the 100 vacancies in the Staff College, which comprises Army, Navy, and Air Force, pass in this examination. The total 130 officers, 30 officers from abroad and 100 officers from the Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force. So to be able to do that, I had to burn midnight on, frankly, prepare very hard. And my second son had also arrived by then. So I had 2 kids and my wife there. So I was doing Staff College, the MBA. Every evening, was 5 days in a week, I had to go to FMS Delhi, and I was staying in the cantonment, and North Campus Delhi, FMS was at least 30 kilometers away from there. And they were evening classes. That was one. Another was the Staff College. And the regiment had already got the movement order from Delhi to Bhuj, Run of Kutch, right? And I was the adjutant. So these 3 things which I was doing, one day my commanding officer, before he taking the regiment to Run of Kutch, right? He called and told me, look, I'm giving you, you are doing this, that. I'm giving you one additional responsibility also. For your MBA program, you have to be present here in Delhi. So the rear party of the regiment, firstly, the main regiment moves away and the rear party is left behind, right? You will also be the officer commanding of the rear party of the regiment. My additional responsibility, that also came on me. I had no choice but to accept it because my own interest was involved. I said, yes, sir. And then he said this sentence to me. He said, Vinay, you have put your head into 3 things now. I hope you at least get one, right? These are his words. Aparna, I'm happy to inform you that I completed my MBA with first division. I qualified my DSSC examination and attended that course in Wellington. I was also promoted major when I went to join the regiment, which has moved to Run of Kutch. Now, this is happening while I'm in the services, right? These were my 3 most cherished moments. Of course, in between, my wife had also threatened me for a divorce because there were not much of a time that I was able to give to her.
Right.
So these were and one more cherishing moment was, which also happened, but that was during the war when I saved guys. But these 3 were the most important.
Amazing.
75 and 78.
Right. So he said you'll come out at least in one of them, and I think you mentioned that you came out good in all 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
Hence, proved him wrong.
So this is all because of the, I tell you, the service teaches you a lot of things.
Right. I would want to now move out to the next set of career, or your second innings, as they call, into the corporate world.